So if I get this correctly, I am now live. And the sound should be working. Houdini is working. Everything's working. So the goal for today, which is going to be fun, is a Vellum sim where we have, let me find this here. So I took this music video here, and I really enjoyed this effect here. So it's a bunch of paper that has a photo printed across all of them, kind of like a tiled print or whatever, and they're laid out like this. You can kind of tell that they're separate pieces of paper, but they still kind of create the cohesive effect of one thing. And this one is quite nice as well because it has that like wavy effect going over it, and then it's actually a photo of waves that's printed on it. So I think what we'll be looking at today is basically just recreating this effect. We will probably use some Vellum to sim some papers and blow some wind through the papers, kind of have them stick to a surface and blow off that surface. We'll see how far we get though. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun little challenge. So I think we'll just start. So I think for the beginning of this thing, we'll just make a grid, and I just want to check the point numbers to see if I can use them the way that I think I can, and I think that'll work fine. It starts at 0 here, goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's basically just going up in the tens each row. So I think that's great. That's going to be exactly what we want, because we want to make sure that the pieces of paper don't intersect, but it's also, so this is laid by humans, right? So obviously it's not completely perfect, so we need to be able to wiggle it a little bit, and then we don't want the pieces to intersect when we do wiggle it, basically. So I think it's good if we have some sort of value here that we can kind of use to place the papers in order on top of each other, just so they don't sit exactly on top of one another. It's probably a smarter way to do this, but I think that's what I'm gonna be going for. Okay, so we got a grid. We only really care about the points here, so I'll just add this add node with delete geometry, but keep the points, just to make sure that we're only using the points. And then we gotta make a piece of paper. And I I think just to begin with, we'll go pretty low res, so maybe something like, let's see, 5x5. And this is a piece of paper, and there, I don't know, I think an A4 is like 21 by 14 or something like that, ish. Probably not exactly, but roughly. So 21 and 14 are a bit high, so maybe we'll just add a little dot there. I think we'll make this even smaller later on, but yeah. Let's see, and then an even division, something like this. That's great. And I think we won't need a lot of topology because paper, I mean, depending on the thickness, but it usually doesn't move too fluidly. So I think it's good with a kind of rigid piece like this that can't move a lot. So then we'll just go copy the points. We want to copy this thing. We'll copy it onto the grid. And now we have a bunch of overlapping stuff. So I think I'll make this underlying grid here a bit bigger, and I'll just eyeball this. And then later on, maybe we can look at turning it into a more procedural setup. But for now, we'll just do something like this. I think I would like it to be more of a widescreen format, so maybe something like this. And then I just need to line up the rows and columns so this stuff lines up correctly. Something like this. I think it's fine that we get some overlap. I think that's all good. Could just go and move it like this and a little bit like this. There we go. So now this should be all separate pieces forming this grid here. And I think this is kind of the ideal position of all of these pieces of paper. So if we had made this floor of paper pieces perfectly, this is how they would be lined up. So I think we should UV it in this state, because that's the work we would have done on the computer to prepare this effect. So let's see here. I think this should be good. I'm gonna go see if I can find a picture of waves. Maybe on Unsplash. It's usually pretty nice. Waves. Let me just download this in the original size. All right. There we go. We got a picture of waves. And this is from Austin Neal. Very nice photo. And they've got a bunch of other similar photos as well, but we'll go with this one. So let's try to see UV quick shade. Textures, waves photo. Put it on there. So that seems like it's the wrong way around. Probably. I think maybe the easiest way is just to rotate this 90 degrees here. It feels like it's pretty zoomed in, doesn't it? It's not quite showing us the full thing. And is that just because we're in the wrong aspect ratio? I guess this picture is a little bit wider. So let's try to line that up a bit better. So we'll probably need, let's see, we'll need one less in the height here. And I'll just make this a bit like that. I think this is fine. Like now we can see we got something going on. This looks like waves. Okay. So I think now we can just kind of start the Vellum setup. And I think we'll just start off with doing the completely naive thing and just assume that it'll work. And then we'll see where it breaks, because I'm almost 100% certain that this is gonna break in a bunch of ways. But I would like to see exactly how it's gonna break before I start trying to solve it. So we'll just do like this, and then we'll probably just add in a wind force or something like that. So we'll add in a pop wind inside the Vellum solver. We'll just give it some amplitude here. And I will turn off the gravity for now. I think we'll turn that back on later, but for now it's off. Okay. And let's see what happens. Way. So this actually isn't as broken as I expected it would be. Because I thought these pieces of paper would try to stick to each other. But it doesn't seem like they do. I think I'll just go and make the pop wind even stronger, and then I'll make the swirl size bigger, just so we can see more, that they deviate more from their positions, and so they're not just lying around like contorting almost in place. Like that. Okay. that's not too bad. Not too bad a start at all. Honestly, I would have expected that we had to kind of run a de-intersection pass, but let's try to see, because this right now this is the perfect ideal scenario, but we've got humans putting these pieces of paper down, so we need to think about that. And this looks way too perfect. I want to randomize it a little bit. And I'm just trying to think here, because ideally I would already randomize it up here, but then the UV texture doesn't come through. but don't know if this is the smartest, but it's what I'm gonna do. We will just do another version here, and we'll give it a little bit of a point jitter. Just a super small scale, something like this. And then we will give it a scatter and a line. We'll just plug both of those in there. And we'll say add attributes to existing point cloud. And they don't have a normal, so that's broken. So we need to give it a normal. Maybe like this should be fine. Nope. Like this. What am I doing wrong here? This is too simple to go wrong, isn't it? Let's see. Normal is pointing up. Oh, and then it updates the normals here. That's why. Okay. So now we should be able to rotate it around the normal. Perfect. Okay. So we'll just rotate it just a little bit. This is people doing their best. Something like this. All right. And then I think I'll just scale it down a little bit as well. Just a very subtle effect, but just so the pieces get a little bit of overlap. And then we'll do an attribute copy over here. And we'll just copy the position. And why does that mess something up? Ah, okay. that makes sense. Let's see here. I think that's because I'm making these normals. And so this piece of paper should not be aligned like that. But I think what I'll do is just take this scatter and align here as well. Just not have any random rotation on it. And then I think it's saved. Yeah. Now we're back. Now we're talking. I think we need even more overlap. So I'm gonna scale it down even smaller. 0.98. It's funny, right? Because you almost don't notice with this kind of super organic detail that's in the photo. You almost don't see that it's weird, but it is just a little bit wrong. Maybe we'll rotate a little bit more. Maybe just a lot more, actually. Now we're starting to feel it. Okay. Let's see if the solver is still happy. It kind of looks like it is, which is incredible. Sweet. Then I think this project is becoming very quickly way more simple than I thought it would be. Just because we're not running into any of those technical issues that I expected we would with Vellum intersections. So I think I'll just turn off this UV quick shade for now. Turn off the UVs as well. And let's see here. I wanted to visualize the constraints. And I want to look at the thickness here. I think we can turn this down probably. 0.1. I think that should be good. Okay, nice. I'll turn this back on. I think it's nice to see it. There we go. I think I'll try to make use of some of the new these scene lights here, ambient occlusion. Maybe that'll be nice. Maybe it'll be nice to add a ground plane here that we can look at. It's probably nice also to tell Vellum that there's a ground plane. So let's go to the solver and turn on ground position. All right. We got something. So we can see that it's kind of starting off with intersections with the floor. So I think I'll just take the point jitter here and tell it not to add any point jitter in Y. And I'll also just move this grid up just a tiny little bit, like so. Okay. Sweet. So now I guess if we wanted to recreate what we're seeing in the reference here, we need some air to come in. It's kind of like they're pointing a leaf blower at it or something like that. And I think usually for that type of effect, Pyro is quite nice to plug into the Vellum solver. And I'm not too used to doing that type of thing, so we'll see how that goes. So let's do a Pyro solver. And I almost never remember how to set this kind of thing up, so I usually do a Pyro configure. Let's see, billowy smoke. I think that's the one I like to use, just to tell me what to do. So you have a shape, and you source. Add some velocity and rasterize the density, the temperature, and the velocity, and then you solve. So we should probably do the same thing. So if we have this thing, we kind of want to blow some air in from here, and we want to blow some air in from here. So I think what we can do is kind of just art direct this a little bit by taking a sphere and this will be one of our sources. Or maybe be like this type of thing. And then to give it direction, we'll add another sphere up here. And then a neat little trick that I learned from John Kuntz is you can take this sphere here and this other sphere, which have the same topology, and we can say that the velocity is equal to, let's see, it's tail first, so it's v at p minus add up input 1 underscore p. I think. Hope I'm getting that right. Probably getting it wrong now that I'm doing it on stream, but let's see. So then we can visualize the velocity like this. And yeah, I'm getting the syntax wrong. It's not just like this, is it? Up input 1p, is it? No. It is not. I'll do it the long way around and say 0.1 p I at pt num. There we go. So now we can move this sphere around and control the velocity of the other sphere. And we need two setups like this. So we'll just move the other one over here on the right side. Something like that. And just rotate it like so. And then I'll add this one. Yep. Like that. We'll just scale it up. Okay, something like this. And then we need to do a Pyro source. Just merge the two outputs here as well. There we go, into the Pyro source. And I don't think we really care about temperature here, but we do care about velocity, so let's get that in there too. I think it's a bit hard to see, but I think it is correct. I think they are kind of pointing in this direction here. And same thing over here. Seems to be what we wanted them to do, so I think we can move on. And attribute adjust vector velocity, I think that's also a good idea. So we'll steal that one. It's super nice that they really improved the presets or the recipes with Pyro. These Pyro configure, they're all updated for Houdini 21, and I think it's a great improvement they've done on all of them. They're much more usable now than they were before. So then we'll steal the volume rasterize attributes as well. Like this. We can see that adds a little bit of noise there. Let's just delete that one and steal their Pyro solver from the recipe. Like so. Okay. And let's just see what happens now. Oh, and I'm still visualizing the Vellum papers. Don't need to be doing that right now. Yeah. So that's kind of just creating a billowy smoke cloud. So let's see here. We're also adding a lot of random noise here, so let's try to see what it looks like without. That is also, for the most part, a smoke cloud, and it kind of looks like there's some wind in the Pyro solver to begin with. So I think if we go under shape here, yeah, we can see there's a wind attribute, and we don't really want that because we're trying to simulate this Pyro setup to be the wind in the room. So we don't want this. And now it's probably mostly the buoyancy driving it to go up. So what happens if we add another wrangle down here? And we say v at p times equals chf amplitude. Hey Magnus, nice to see you. How are you? We're making this kind of printed papers on the ground being blown up by a leaf blower type of effect. Let's see, there it is. Swish. Thought it was a kind of cool and pretty simple Vellum effect. And we should be good boys here and name our wrangles. So this one is set velocity, and so is this one. And this is multiply velocity. I'll just try to multiply it by 10 here so we can see if the velocity is actually doing anything. Is Houdini crashing? Looks like it might be. Stream still fine? Yep. Oh no, okay. Houdini is all right. Oh, right, I said V at P. I meant to say V at V, so it makes sense that Houdini got a bit upset there, because I just made the whole thing 10 times bigger without making the voxel size smaller. It was a bad idea, probably. Yeah, it is really cool. It's a cool effect. It's cool that someone did it in real life. It's cool they put all those pieces of paper down on the ground and spend all that time on it. Okay, so it looks like that velocity isn't going through here when we're doing the Pyro source. So I must have seen wrong. Yeah, okay, so it's just taking a default value there. Is there any way to tell it to use the one that already exists? Or would that require keep input? I think in that case, just to simplify, we will run an attribute. Attribute transfer. Okay, there we go. I couldn't spell. We'll run an attribute transfer and just get it like this. So now we should see our leaf blower. Yeah, there we go. Swoosh. A fast leaf blower. And we need to make a ground plane. Let's see, that's under collision, ground planes. And the Y ground plane is closed below. So when we play it now, it should collide with the ground. Yes, it sure does. Okay. And I think looking at this, we can already kind of judge that this is going to be too big, but I just want to put it in and see if we're getting the type of effect that we want. And then we can adjust afterwards. So let's get rid of this recipe here. Let's take all this and move it up here. We'll make a null to get the wind out. I usually color my nulls black so I can quickly find them. And then here we go, what's it called? Pop advect by volumes. That's the one. That's the one we're looking for. We're looking for a SOP. Oh, I thought I copy pasted it, but it looks like I didn't. Let's see, Control C. Get it in here. There we go. I'll just make that a relative path. All right. So let's see now. There we go. Swoosh. So then I think I should be able to just turn off this pop wind, because we don't want wind everywhere now. Now we only want wind where we're simulating wind. So it should be good like this. We'll play it. That is looking pretty decent, but obviously way too fast. So we can turn this velocity multiplier down a little bit, maybe 2.5. See how that looks. Let's see, because I think I'm gonna cache this eventually, so we should do a little bit of optimizing of what we cache here. We don't really need to output the density, temperature, flame, or color. We just need the velocity. And let's not call the velocity volume. And this is all good. Convert to VDB, use 16-bit float, just so we can save some resources when caching. And I tried to set up the file cache, but I can see it did not save that. I tried to set up the file cache so it saves to the folder that I wanted to save to with these small daily projects, but it didn't save the preset. So I will just go here, explicit, geo hip name, like this. All right. Then it should be ready to save. Let's turn the density back on just while we're trying to figure out what we want to do. Yeah, so like I said, I think these are way too big to begin with. If we look at our grid here, it should be more localized. So I'll just scale down these guys here. Maybe something like that. Oh, and now we're in the middle of the sim, so it's gonna cook. And you could and probably should do these two sources of wind in separate sims, just because they're not really going to interact in the shot that we're looking at, and it would give you more control. But I think I'm gonna keep it in. I think I'm gonna keep it in one. I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna say you should do something and then not do it. And I think what we can do as well, just to make this a bit faster, is just increase the voxel size a little bit. Because it looks like we have quite a lot of detail, and this is kind of a utility sim. It's not really a sim we're supposed to be looking at. So we can probably even go lower than that, like this. I think that's probably fine. All right, great. Let's see what the Vellum sim looks like now. Much better. Sweet. So then we need to turn gravity back on for the Vellum sim. So I'll just reset that to defaults, because now they're just kind of floating up in the air and we want them to fall back down. Nice. I'm trying to see if this feels like the pieces are too big, if it feels too slow. Let's see, what does our source say? Yeah, I think they feel too slow. And I think they also get thrown a bit too much up into the air. Let's see, back to Houdini. Yeah, they get thrown way too much up into the air. So they're probably both too big and maybe the velocity is too high from this sim here. So we could try to turn this down. I don't know. It's going to be a bit of a balance hacking these things out, because if we turn this down too low, it's probably not even going to hit. It looks like it's fine. It looks like it's fine. I'm taking that back. This looks all right. All right. I think that's a bit more like it. And I think what we should do now is change this paper setup to be a bit more procedural, because right now it's gonna be a lot of fiddling back and forth, trying to figure out what's the right size of these pieces of paper. Because I think, yeah, if we look at this, there's so many more pieces of paper than we have in our setup. So I think we just need to make them smaller and need to make more of them. So let's do a little bit of math here. Could be cool, have it a procedural setup. So let's see here. I think I'm just gonna do it by linking parameters, and I'm gonna make myself seem a little bit dumb probably, because I am never very fast at figuring these things out, but let's try. Let's try. So we have this grid here, which defines the points. Let's see here, it defines the points that we're placing these pieces of paper on. And we essentially just need the distance between each of the points to be roughly the same width as a piece of paper, and we need the same in the bottom. So I guess we literally just need to tell it to take the size X in here, and the size Y in the size Y of the base grid. So now they're all on top of each other. Oh wait, paste relative references. So now they're all on top of each other. So then we need to use the rows and columns to multiply that up. And I'm probably getting the wrong number here. So we'll probably have to flip those around, but let's just see if this does what I think it does. Yeah, so I think if we just flip rows here, we take that. Put that in there. and then columns in the X. There we go, and then it's probably just -1 on each of them to get them to line up perfectly. So let's put this expression here, the columns in parentheses, and let's say -1. I'll take the rows as well. In parentheses, -1. So now I think it should line up perfectly, and we could check that with an exploded view. If we just scale this down, we should see that when this hits 0, it should be exactly lining up, and I think that's what's happening, so that's great. Awesome. So now this should be a bit more procedural. Yes. So now we define the amounts of paper that we want. And the size of a piece of paper. I think I'll try to set the real size roughly of a piece of paper, which is just 10 times less than it was before. And then let's see if we multiply this up 10 times. I think my computer will be very upset with me, but let's give it a go. Yeah, so now the jittering that we did is pretty intense, because obviously everything is now 10 times smaller, so this jitter is 10 times bigger. So let's make that smaller. Okay. And let's cache out the Pyro sim. There we go. Yep. That's cached. And I was intending not to cache the density, but looks like I forgot about that. So now we have the density as well. Don't think that should really hurt anything. The Pyro setup isn't that complicated. It's the Vellum that's going to be heavy here. See, it probably needs to do some getting OpenCL ready before it starts. Oh, there we go. It's running now. Let's see. Did the Pyro sim make it there yet? No. It didn't. So one thing we could do is we could just time shift the Pyro a little bit. We'll just say something like that. Maybe even 20, just so that when it when we start the Vellum sim, we don't have to wait for that long before the Pyro sim hits the Vellum. Let's try again. Still waiting? Okay. Ah, wait. It's the wrong way around. It's plus 20. Of course it is. Classic. Okay, now we see something happening. And this tells me that it's probably... we probably have too many pieces of paper now. I think we need to get something in between. Because I think this, in this grand scheme of things, it looks looks like each piece of paper is way too small. So I think we need to rebalance that a little bit. Don't have to wait too long for that sim to finish up. So I think in the interest of not re-simming the Pyro right now, kind of rebalancing that whole thing, I will fudge the numbers a little bit and just say that this is, maybe it's 4 times bigger than it actually is. And we'll see if that kind of messes up the behavior of the pieces of paper, because scale is pretty important with this type of thing. So it could be that it looks completely wrong. Let's divide this by 4. I don't think that's too bad. That's pretty decent. So now I think we could start to think about camera angles. And we probably want to fix up the Pyro as well a little bit, because it is very perfect. It's kind of it's kind of making a very perfect shape here. I think it would be more interesting if it was a bit more varied, but let's place a camera first, just so we kind of know what we're dealing with here. What a focal length. 0.05. What a crazy value. Let's see. think we'll make it even longer. A longer lens here. $110. Okay, something like this. Swoosh. Don't think that's the way we want to go. I think we want to go this way instead. Just so we're also matching up the reference a bit more, because they thought about the composition. So let's see if they're blowing wind in from that side and this side, we should be doing the same thing. And then I think I want to blow it more into the frame and not just on this half here. And maybe the same thing with this one. I think I want to blow it more down here. So then we got kind of two opposing forces in a way. I think that could be quite neat. So let's go back here. And let's leave the camera where it is. We could even do a split view here. One that goes through the camera, one that doesn't. And then I'll place these spheres again. So this right now, going too much that way, so I'll move it over there. And then I'll move its velocity pointer guy a bit over here. And this one, I think I'll move it up there. And the velocity control over here. Now if we try to look at this sim here, this should kind of give us a very good indication of how the papers will move. So I think you can even tell now that this is going way too much this way and that one isn't even really coming into frame. So let's play with them again. See, I think maybe this frame, if we could get that to update, that would be good. Don't know if that's what it'll do, but see, then you can control click the little brain to get it to recalculate up until the current frame. Maybe just something like that. And then when do we get to see the other one? That takes a while. So it's because it's been moved way too much over to the side. So if I move it over here instead. Like this maybe. That was too much. Go back. Yes, now we get this side first, then this side joins in. I think that should be pretty good. Let's save to disk. Okay, and let's have a look at the Vellum sim. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I think it still leaves too perfect kind of trail here. So we need to look at that a little bit. Maybe just add some jittering to the source. But I like how they meet here in the middle. Or here like on this, almost like on the third. It's pretty cool. And I like the overall pace of it. I think maybe we should let these pieces fall to the ground sooner and not keep being shut off screen. So I think to do that, a nice and simple way to do that is to just go to the Pyro solver and make the dissipation even higher, so we have the smoke dissipate sooner. So I think now we should just look at the Pyro sim here, and we can see where before it was kind of continuing almost infinitely out here. Now it's kind of dissipating already here. I think we can make it live a little bit further, because now we're also not seeing anything on the other side, or barely seeing anything on the other side. Let's see, 0.1, is that good? It's probably a bit too far, 0.15. I think that's a decent bet. Let's try to save this out. And then we'll see if that does what we want it to. I think they still get pushed too far. And it's still too perfect of a trail that it leaves. So I'm talking about this shape here around the edge. That's too perfect. I think we're not even really seeing that here, but I don't think it would look that perfect in the reference. And I think something that's interesting is that some of these pieces of paper aren't even really getting caught up in the effect. Like this one here just kind of stays behind, which I think is quite nice. I'm not too sure. I'm assuming this would be some kind of vellum property. Is it to do with the thickness? Does it have something to do with the, what is it they call it? They have this, tangent drag. Could be something to do with that. I think we could try to decrease the thickness and just see if that kind of makes the papers catch less easily. It almost looks like that might be it. They are kind of staying behind more than they were before. Maybe not. Let's see, is there anything else that sounds like it might be what we're looking for? Not really in here. Maybe in the Vellum solver. Yeah, there's friction, which I think could be it. And I never really understood these explanations, so I'm not too sure what you have to do here. I'm not too sure which of the values you need to turn up, which one you need to turn down. So what I often do when I don't know what to do is just do something crazy like that. Hey Fred, how's it going? Good to see you here. So if we try to turn the static threshold up to 10, which is 20 times bigger than the default amount, we can try to see what happens. If we don't just crash, that is. Okay, there we go. Should probably save the file at this point. Yeah, okay. So that definitely seems to increase the friction quite a lot. We have the pyro going in. These pieces are not moving. So that's good. That tells me this one definitely does increase the friction. So we can try to set it to 1, see what that does. Maybe adding some randomness to the source sim velocity vectors, and maybe also multiplying the Vellum constraints friction with a geometry attribute. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I think we did have this one here, which I want to add in again. Now I got sidetracked trying to figure out this friction thing. But it definitely looks like it's doing something, and I think just increasing it a little bit is probably healthy for what we're trying to achieve here, because I like the sliding effect, and I like that they kind of stick to the floor a little bit. But I think you're right, definitely like adding a little bit of randomness, so some of them are a little bit more frictiony than others is a good thing. I think increasing this static threshold already helped quite a bit. We're seeing them kind of stay on the floor, which is great. And then I think you're right. Let's add in a bit of that randomness into the source sim. And that looks like it's too much. Set to override initial value. I don't want that. Randomness are bread and butter, indeed. How would we get anything done without randomness? I don't know. So see, I think I'm gonna get more confused by this already having some values set, so I'm gonna delete that one and make an attribute adjust vector myself. And then we just want to add in some noise. It should be an animated noise. Just gonna try to play it without first and see how it looks. Just so I also know what's different when I see that. I think, what is it? You can do like a pyro look, pyro. What's it called? There's that labs node. Pyro configure. Back to doing this again. Pyro configure. Let's see. Because I know it's in here. It's called Pyro Big Volume. Okay. I just want to increase the density a little bit so I can see it through the camera better. And I think you can do that with this node. There we go. Yes, nice. Okay. So then we add in a noise. Let's see what happens now. And that is not really enough. So we can try to just multiply that by 10. It's probably going to be too much, but then at least we can see that it's doing something. Yeah, and also the range values is set to positive. That just makes them all go in this direction here, which we don't want. So I'll just set that to 0 centered. We'll try again. So this looks more like it. I think it's still too much, so maybe I'll just decrease that to 5, and then we'll try to cache it out and see if that's a good effect. What are we baking, Fred? Are we baking bread, or were you talking about the Pyro sim? Both. Great. So I think for the source over here, I think I want to move it closer into the camera so it kind of has more strength out here. This is where I was talking about doing them separately could be a good idea, because then you can kind of art direct them separately. But it's also nice that that they can meet each other here, and the two velocities influence each other. So it's kind of a trade-off, right? If you do them separately, you have a bit more control, but also you get more, or you get a less dynamic sim. But if you do them together, it's more dynamic but less control. You're baking at the moment, bread pudding. Nice. Are you doing late night baking, or you're not in Europe maybe? Yeah, so let's take that second source and just move it closer to the camera. I'll split the view here. like so. And let's just look at this grid so I can see what I'm doing. Up like that. Let's move this a bit closer just so we don't also make the velocity way stronger. Something like this. Let's try again. In Jamaica. Sweet. I would imagine that's a little bit warmer than here. We've had snow lying on the ground for, I don't know, is it almost 2 weeks now? It's been a long time. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this again. I ran out of cash. Damn it. Let's just increase this a little bit. $28, is that Fahrenheit or Celsius? It's like winter cold and then 28 Celsius. That's crazy. Okay, let's see. I just want to see it all run in real time. That is not too bad. I almost think there's more in this reference here. There's almost more, there's more disturbance in a way. It kind of flips back on itself more. So I think I'm gonna try to add that into the Pyro. Then we'll see if we like that or we hate that, but I think it'll be good. So let's see, is disturbance, is that the large scale or is it the small scale? High frequency details. Okay, so I'm talking about turbulence, I think. Yes, you should generally use this operator to add powerful large-scale noise. Exactly. I like it when they tell me what I'm supposed to use it for. So I'll just increase this. Like that. And then we'll save to disk again. Okay. That might be pretty decent. I don't know if the friction is maybe a bit overboard now. It's a bit too much. Okay, 28 Celsius, but it went down to 13 last week. I mean, that is pretty cold compared to 28, for sure. It sounds like some nice, not too extreme degrees, but I'm sure that also comes with with other things. Do you get you probably get like crazy rains, right? And bad winds. Let's see. Static threshold 1.5. Probably needs to turn it down even more. 1. Let's do that. Yeah, now it gets a little bit of height. Just a few of them get to escape. And most of them are kind of stuck. That's good. I think it might be interesting to try to increase the velocity, the original velocity, a little bit. Yeah. Rain, hurricanes. You just got power back after 4 months. You've been running without electricity for 4 months. Let's try to increase that to 1.5. I don't want to do anything too crazy. So 1.5, and then because we're mostly in a good place here. We're just kind of adding the last little bits. Let's see, I don't know if we can... Maybe we decrease the dissipation a little bit. Like that. And we try again. Last stream, we did a lot of crashing. This stream, we do a lot of caching. Isn't that fun? Just generators at night. Damn. That's wild. So I guess you're not freelancing or doing your daily work with Houdini, or that sounds hard if you can just be out of power for 4 months. It's a lot of work you can't get done. Oh, that was a strong wind. So when we make it stronger, we need even. Oh, I also decreased the dissipation. I need to increase it. Classic mistake. Let's see what it looks like now. That is still too much. I think we're looking for a balance somewhere in between. So we'll just decrease the velocity a little bit and then we'll try again. Freelancing at the moment, just got back in after 4 months. Sounds intense. Yeah, you get a lot of time to think about cool ideas to try. Definitely. I'm guessing you have other work you can do in between then? Yeah. Okay. Getting somewhere. I think the velocity actually seems pretty decent here. Let's try to view it from the camera. And then I think we just need to increase the dissipation even more. .3. Let's cash that out. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. I think that dissipation is definitely a lot better, and it kind of adds it gets the velocity noise to do a little bit of that, I don't know, pulsing motion. It's like this where it kind of stops and then the wind hits again and it starts back up. That's kind of cool. I was in Australia at Luma, came home for holidays, hurricane, now working from here. Wow. What is Luma an animation studio? VFX studio? Luma. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard of Luma. Okay, so I think we can take the dissipation, just do one more little tweak on it. It's gonna be a very small tweak, but I think we're getting the values that we like. So we'll take 0.275 just to get it going a little bit further. And then I think we're happy. Luma Pictures VFX. Sweet. Got some Groot. Got some Godzilla. Cool. That sounds great. Can you talk about what you were working on, or is that still under wraps? I don't know. Now I kind of don't like that they settle so fast. I am indecisive. But I do think that it also has to do with, if we look at this, it's almost like it's not doing enough mushrooming. Because I think what we kind of want is this type of shape. We want it to loop back in on itself. I think that's also what we're seeing in the Vellum sim, is that it does that at first. Like it makes this little wave here, which is nice. But then it falls flat again. And it would be neat if we could get it to do more of that looping. You did Love, Death and Robots, Lilo and Stitch, and Happy Gilmore in the lighting department. Cool. So are you lighting in Houdini in Solaris? Yeah, it looks like it's falling flat at the end. Definitely. It is. And it makes sense because the Pyro dies out. And like we saw before, it doesn't have that curl anymore. I also don't know, because I think the reference, it's such a short clip. What is it? It's 4 seconds, something like that. So we might just be trying to do something that wouldn't even really happen in the reference. So at this point, you could go in and art direct a lot of stuff. I think I'll just give it back. I don't know. More dissipation? could also be that because we have buoyancy turned on, but I think buoyancy doesn't do anything if we don't have temperature. And right now we don't have temperature. So I think we should be sourcing some temperature as well. Let's just try to do that. And I think this is one of those cases where I clicked save to disk straight away, but I should have been looking at the sim first. Because I could pretty quickly tell if it does what I want it to do, and now I've just spent time caching it out, not knowing if it does. I think it actually does. Gets a bit less of a dry ice effect. Starts rising up a bit more. I think that could be good. Let's try to see it with the Vellum sim. Luma used Katana, Scanline used Houdini. Houdini lighting pipeline. All right. That's cool. What does a lighting pipeline do? I'm a small studio guy, so I haven't I haven't had a lot of pipelines. Small studio and freelancing. Is it about like reusing like master lighting setups and stuff like that, or is it more for like input output, what you're bringing into the scene, what you're sending on down the line? I think we could almost add an opposing force here on the other side. I want to try that and just see what that does. Let's see, just go like this. And then whoa. Ended up scaling that one. Just want to move it. Maybe something like that, and then make a copy and scale it up. Something like this. Let's try to just look at the Pyro solver. See if that's an interesting result. Might have moved it back too far. Let's try to see our grid here. Yeah, I think that's moved back a little bit too far. So now we're not even really gonna see any effect from that. Let's move it closer in. There we go. Bit further back. And we'll try to cache this out. Shot management, layer management, look dev, shader management. Spend most of the time debugging if the assets are getting the right shaders. The renders are taking 8 hours. Yeah. Sounds familiar, yeah. It's like, how did we mess up the optimization this time? I think probably moved it back too far again, so now it's not influencing the sim at all. Only barely. That doesn't work. You had a render go for a month? At 16K? That's insane. What does a 16K image go on? Is that on the, what's it called? The Vegas Dome? Is that what they call it? Okay, there we go. Now we're seeing a little bit of effect here. And I think regardless of how much we love this result, which is these pieces are going wild. Just not as lot. I don't love it as much as I hoped I would, but I think there's definitely some interesting things going on. It's like this effect of the pages kind of peeling off the floor. I like it a lot. It's quite nice. I think it would be interesting to see things loop back a little bit more on themselves. I don't know if that also just has to do with maybe the velocity needs to come from more of an up angle than from out at the side. Could be that that's it. I'm not quite sure, but we definitely experimented with some things here. So that's awesome. I would like to just quickly see how this would look in a render. I don't know how quick that would be though. In the end, we had to do a single frame 32K render. We had to use render slicer to cut up that frame on altered carbon, the opening city shot. Damn. That's wild. I know that we've been slicing up some renders when it's, I think that was just 4K renders. We had to tile those, render those in tiles, but it's also because we're doing GPU rendering on consumer grade hardware. So we have like a few 5090s and some lower than that as well. So for us, it's just a lot of a lot of cutting renders up whenever they go further than 1920 by 1080, basically. Okay, but what I was looking at here is basically that the backside of the paper obviously is paper still, because it's just been printed on the front side. So I feel like the most optimized thing would probably be to do a double-sided shader, but I haven't tried that, and I don't know if that's, I haven't really looked into that. So if I had to solve that right now, I would I would end up looking at a YouTube video. And I think I would rather solve that another time. So I think we'll say that we're happy with this stage at the moment. And then it could be that we just pick this project back up next time we run a stream. So this is the paper sim. We'll save that out. I would render in Karma. Karma XPU. But I will have to call it now. I think you could do like a Vellum, what's it called? Vellum post process. Can't type post process. extrude by thickness. And we could just do it that way. But I think it might even work better if it doesn't have thickness. So I think we'll figure that out next time. I mean, I'll prepare so I know what to do. But yeah. All right. Thank you for joining me, those of you who did. Thank you, Fred, for sharing your lighting department stories. It's good to hear that other studios are also struggling with massive renders. 32K sounds insane. Yeah. We got some Vellum sims done. Learned a little bit about friction. I think Fred mentioned at some point that they seem to fall flat at the end, which they do, because we're time shifting this sim to start 20 frames earlier than it does. So, or start 20 frames in. So it also runs out 20 frames before the other one. So what we could do is just sim it like this. I keep putting off ending the stream. Just want to see this. We should end up at some kind of result, right? That's a smart thing to do. So we'll just cache this out and do a little flipbook. And then we're out of here. All right. There we go. Waves being, I don't know, blown in the wind, let's say. Looks kind of neat. So thank you everyone who joined in. I'll try to see if we can do this in exactly a week again. So on next Tuesday, same time. Hope so. Bye.